John Wayne is Big Leggy by Hazy Fantasy, featuring Kate Garner, who's with me now on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Kate, why did Hazy Fantasy only last one album?
I think that, we were very punk rock. Like, we seemed like we were pop because of the way we looked and everything, but we were actually, real punk rock persuasion. And we were also we were arrogant and insecure at the same time. And I think when it got really big, and then we had, the head of Sony was the guy that became the head of Sony was our manager in America. The guy that married Mariah Carey got kind of really big, or was going to get really big, or it was being pushed that way. And I think that we just, we weren't ready for it. We didn't plan it. We weren't thinking that we were going to do something really big. We just felt we were just doing what we wanted to do. And so I think we didn't realize maybe how lucky we were, or exactly what was happening. And then also because Paul, he's a businessman, and when we had the first success, and then more people were asking him to manage them, and then Chrysalis Records gave us our own record company, and so we got all tied up in that. And Paul especially got all tied up in that. So Jeremy and I were kind of isolated a little bit, and Paul was like our root. And all of a sudden we didn't have a root for the tree. And so the tree fell over.
You were a successful photographer before Hazy Fantasy. What got you into that field?
By chance. My whole life, maybe everybody's life is by chance, but mine has definitely all been by chance. I came from a small town in the north of England, from a working-class family, and, there was never any career planned for me, and, I'd been all the way over to India and back when I was, 17 years old, and when I came back, I think I just met somebody on the street that was going to photography college, and, that was never an option for me to do anything like that, and I just thought, I'm going to do that. And I got in. I don't know how I got in. I knew nothing about photography, but I think that if you're a left-brain persuasion and you're an artist, it really doesn't matter, what you do. It doesn't matter if you do music or photography or you're a painter, and it just happens that way. I was never going to be an academic or a business woman. I was definitely always going to do something that was of an artistic bent, and that just happened to come along. It was pure chance.
You went back to photography after Hazy Fantasy broke up. Now, did you approach being behind the camera again with sort of a new perspective from being on the other side, or did you get sort of back in there without missing a beat?
Well, it kind of happened gradually, because I met Faulkner Kelly, who managed Sinead, and, at one point, he might have managed me, but I just kind of lost the plot as far as being a performer. I sort of get quite bad stage fright and everything, and then he asked me if I'd work with Sinead, on a one-to-one basis, and so it wasn't that, I thought, okay, I'm going to go and have a photographic career now. It was just that Sinead and I started to work together, and so, I did all of her shoots, or, 90% of her shoots, and, so she would just be at my apartment, and, we would do a shoot in the bathroom, and it was, or whatever, it was not a big deal, and so then if I did Sinead, then, more people would ask me to photograph them, and so it just happened like that, really. It wasn't anything that I planned. And I'd never stopped photographing, all the way through Hazy. We used to live in this really big studio, and I used to photograph people all the time. I never really stopped.
Well, you're internationally known, Kate, both as a fashion photographer and an art photographer, having had your work published several times and had very successful art shows. I want to hear a little bit about Kate Garner, the artist.
Well, what happened, I went to live in California, and and I had a child. And when I was in California, I kind of, I started to do a lot of photography that I ended up a long way from where I'd begun with it. And so when we moved back to England 6 years ago, I thought, I'm not going to do photography anymore. And, because it had got very much just about the money, and I didn't know why I was doing it anymore. And then what happened was my friend had put on this festival that was being backed by Sony, and they wanted me to do a retrospective because of, it's called the Outsider Festival, and all the people that I photographed in the 80s were like outsiders, like Lee Bowery. So they asked me to do a retrospective of my work from the 80s and also to do the new people that were still doing that in London, like the new people that were in their 20s and doing it. So I said yes to that. And then after I'd had that show, then I got another one in San Francisco, and then I got another one back in London. And again, it wasn't anything that I planned. I mean, you're probably thinking, how does this woman exist? I never planned anything, So, I thought I'm not going to do photography anymore. In fact, I went back to music. My husband is signed to One Little Indian. He wanted to do a metal electronic project. We did a project like that for One Little Indian where I helped write the music and, did the videos and photographs, the whole package. And, and the photography just happened again. And, so that's how I started to do fine art, and I'm progressing in it, and it's really interesting. It's a really interesting world.
A lot of your work can be seen on kategarner.org. Now, as a photo art layman like myself, I sort of noticed that it seems that you develop a lot out of the fashion industry standard photography you've done before, and you took it into more of an avant-garde approach as you ascended into concentrating more on your artistic side. How far off am I here?
That's true. I mean, I did do fashion photography. I worked for people like The Face and ID magazine, and then when I was in America, I did more straight fashion. But and I do love fashion. I love clothes, and I love designers and everything. But I don't really like the fashion world that much. It's too strict. It's too narrow. I'm much more interested in people's style. That people put together themselves with no money than just buying something from Prada or whatever. And there was a good quote from Vivienne Westwood yesterday. She'd done an interview in this magazine. Her advice to budding fashion designers is don't ever look at a fashion magazine. To just do it yourself. And so, the people that some of the people that are on my website, the Jolly Darkness, that's what I've been showing. That's what my exhibitions have been about, and I'm toward the end of that now, and I'm going to progress on to my next lot of ideas. But, it's been like 4 years really working on that because people kept asking me to do more shows, and I was just really intrigued with, people that completely change their identity with what they're wearing and, makeup and things like that. So that's much more what I'm interested in fashion.
I agree with you on that, Kate, because I look at GQ magazine and Men's whatever magazine, and I say, I dress better than that. Yeah, that's it. I make it up myself. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no wrong. I don't like it when people think there's wrong in the way anybody dresses. I like it when it's wrong.
Yeah, but it's only right when it's wrong. That's it.
Exactly.
We're not convention. We can go off on a tangent here, but you did.
Yeah, that's okay. You can go off. Go off. I'll go off with you.
Convention is boring. That's what I say. Normal is dull.
Yeah. There's there's so much media, and there's so many things telling us what we should be. And human beings are tribal. We like to find our tribe and but maybe I like the smaller tribes, rather than the big land tribe.
Good point.
If that makes sense.
No, very good point. I totally agree with you there. Sometimes the small guys know what they're doing a little better than the big guys. The big guys have a bigger crowd to go along with, and you don't like going along with the crowd, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kate Garner is my guest on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Kate, you've been doing a lot of shows in the U.S. and in Britain. Talk about some of the more recent ones.
The last one I did was at the end of January, and I did it in this gallery called Future Gallery. It used to be the Photographer's Gallery. It's near Leicester Square in London's West End. And again, it was a Jolly Darkness. It was the identity artist, but it had kind of moved on a little bit to... It had got a little bit more romantic, but it was still on the theme of changing identities. And it was, just 10 pieces. And we had a great opening night. About 300 people came, and Georgia Dad sang for me, which was sweet. And that was my last show, and that was open for 10 days. So, and I don't know when my next one is. I'm probably going to start working on new stuff, because I've been doing the Jolly Darkness now, as I said before, for about 4 years. So.
What drives your passion for photography?
It's not a passion in particular for photography. It's just a passion to keep creating, and otherwise I think if you stop creating, then I don't want to get stuck. So I have constantly sort of make myself uncomfortable, so I can, because we have such short lives, don't we? I want to discover all there is to discover. I guess it's self-realization. But that's what I'm interested in. It doesn't matter what the medium is. Mine just happens to be photography at the moment. It could change to something else.
Kate Garner is on the phone with me all the way from London. Next, we're going to talk about Kate's latest projects, including her new music and an innovative approach to producing it. I'm Chris Cordani. This is Revenge of the 80s Radio.